Darkseid.
Hello, dear viewers. It's Andrew Lapomardo again, and today we are talking about 14 destructive and vigorous villains from Superman, the animated series. Strap in and let's get going. DC might have some of the highest selling comics of all time, but it would be unwise to not consider its animated works to be one of the most important factors that have helped the franchise retain its popularity, even in an era where people are less likely to read a comic and more likely to resort to visual media. With series such as Justice League, Batman the Animated Series, Static Shock, and Justice League Unlimited, the DC animated universe is a force to be reckoned with. However, before the Justice League cartoon hit the screens, Superman, the animated series, dominated television. Unfortunately, its impact is often overlooked. It joins other cartoons such as X-Men, Batman Beyond, and Spider-Man in the catalog of superhero cartoons that made the 90s one of the most interesting eras for comic book franchises. Superman the Animated Series has also been critically acclaimed for doing several things right, such as the voice acting, animation, themes, complexities, and most importantly, for staying true to the source material. It did make some changes though, such as turning Brainiac into an artificial supercomputer from Krypton instead of Kolu, to personalize its rivalry with Superman. However, such changes have also been crafted masterfully, making Superman the Animated Series more iconic in its own right. And one thing the series has excelled in is its villains. With antagonists like Lex Luthor and Darkseid, the Superman comics have some of the best villains in its arsenal, and the animated series have dealt with such characters, giving them enough screen time and character depth. It has also introduced several other, more overlooked but intriguing villains to a generation of audience who are slowly moving away from reading formats to watching them on screen. In this video, we are going to talk about 14 such destructive villains from the series who have plagued Superman and stolen the show. So, let's get right down to it. Before we get into the explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click from you, but means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin.
Oh, I'm sorry. My card.
We have Lobo, the main man himself. Starting the list with Lobo, or the main man as he likes to call himself, just makes the most sense. He was a master bounty hunter from the planet Zarnia, famous and revered throughout the galaxy. He had his hobbies. He enjoyed drinking, gambling, fighting, and of course, riding the Hog, i.e. his beloved space bike. He was persistent in his job and did not let anything hinder him. With a strong moral code, this guy never went back on his word. Lobo had murdered everyone on his home planet. His justification to this was kinda offbeat. Apparently, it was a high school science project. He also graded himself with an A. Maybe he didn't go for the A+ because he himself was still alive, so the race hadn't been wiped out. He went on to become a mercenary in the galaxy. He would do anything as long as the compensation and money kept flowing. Priorities. He also has a lot of enemies, but barely any allies. No matter how revered you are in DC, of course you'll fall in front of Superman. And that's what went on to happen with Lobo. After Superman made himself known to Earth, the Intergalactic Preserver hired Lobo to bring in the last Kryptonian to keep him in their safety. Superman ended up defeating him, but he fell into a trap while pursuing Lobo in space. But remember how Lobo was the last Zarnarian? Yep. The Preserver captured Lobo as well. He teamed up with Superman as they tried to break free from being held captive by the Preserver. Lobo is believed to possess the same powers as his people from Zarnia. His strength is actually close to Superman's, and he has sent the Man of Steel flying. However, he has been severely wounded on several occasions, so he lacks the same invulnerability as Superman. However, this does not mean he has the shorter end of the stick, because What he has is the ability to heal at a rapid speed. One of his most interesting abilities is the fact that he does not need to breathe air for survival, which is the reason why he can travel through space on Hog, his bike. Lobo is very attached to his space bike and can summon it fairly easy with a whistle. He is also known for finding his target as a bounty hunter and always keeping his word. We do not know whether he was training in the craft of hunting or not. At least, not in the DC universe.
Huh. Looks like you still got some juice left in you.
Parasite. This one is an energy-draining creature. Rudy Jones used to be a janitor at Star Labs before turning into the Parasite. He eventually went on to become a criminal. While working as a janitor, Jones had gotten entangled with gambling problems. He struck a deal with Martin LeBeau for clearing his debts. He agreed that he would rob some experimental chemicals from Star Labs, but of course, things did not go perfectly. 2 security guards intercepted him, and Jones escaped, jumping into LeBeau's truck. The 2 took off, but Jones was in the rear, along with the canisters. LeBeau drove hastily to escape, and that had its repercussions. Jones toppled over, and with that, the canisters, bathing him in the chemicals, which seems to be a quite common way to gain superpowers in DC. Jones literally begged LeBeau to stop the car, but instead was dropped on the roadside. He became unconscious and LeBeau did not care whether he lived or died. After a couple hours, he regained his consciousness. But the way he did it was what made things interesting. You see, a rat had come into contact with him, and Jones drained its energy and absorbed it instead. He then wandered aimlessly until he was intercepted by a policewoman. He then lunged at her and drained her energy. This is also when he discovered he could sap people's memories and mimic voices. He named himself as Parasite and later went on to become part of the secret society after Grodd recruited him. It was the criminal gang whose purpose was to destroy the Justice League. He also joined the Legion of Doom, where he came into contact with the infamous Lex Luthor. After Luthor took over the association by overthrowing Grodd, Parasite did not join Luthor's side, and sided with Grodd instead in the Legion's mutiny. In the end, Killer Frost froze him and the other supporters of Grodd. After that, Darkseid blew them up. Just because he could drain energy does not mean it was permanent, because of course, energy gets used up. Also, he could not absorb anyone's energy without physical contact. But what made his abilities truly formidable was soaking in his victims' powers, skills, and memories. However, these abilities did return to their owners over time. So Parasite resorted to the means of holding his victims captive in secure locations and visiting them periodically for their energy so that he could retain the absorbed powers. His powers had other drawbacks as well, probably to nerf his power level as a villain. He couldn't sap energy despite direct contact if either of the parties wore special protective coverings, say armor. Also, while draining someone, Parasite had to battle his victim's mind. So, if the victim had a strong mind, they could assert their will on Parasite instead. This has happened during an incident before, with Earl Garver. To make matters worse for him, he also ended up absorbing their weaknesses, such as Livewire's water vulnerability, or succumbing to kryptonite if he drained Superman. This would make Batman his most formidable opponent, because he cannot sap net worth. Anyway, Parasite would find himself in a state of massive memory loss and comatose after he suffered through the weaknesses of others, but he would overcome it gradually.
Bet you think you've got me? Well, surprise!
Metallo. Similar to Lobo, Metallo, or John Corbin, was also a mercenary. But unlike Lobo, that was Metallo's life before turning into a cyborg. He used to live his life as a high-profile hitman and mercenary, working special rank missions. Once, he infiltrated the LexCorp, with a team of mercenaries, led by him, and stole the Lexoskell Suit 5000. This theft was staged by Lex Luthor himself, and was done for benefiting the region of Casnia. Corbin saw the light of prison after he was sent to Stryker's Island prison. A few months following this, he discovered that he had a super rare and terminal disease from a virus which was only found in a tiny island located in the South Seas. Guess being an international mercenary isn't that cool after all, since it does make one more susceptible to exotic diseases. Because Corbin went to jail while helping out Luthor, Luthor returned the favor by helping him escape. He also did this in exchange for Corbin's discretion. He was taken to LexCorp, where the scientist transferred his mind into an android body, which was indestructible. The body was made of Metallo, and had strength that rivaled Superman's, mainly because its source of power was a kryptonite heart. Of course, he went on to fight the Justice League in the future. On returning to Metropolis, Metallo, along with Livewire, Kalibak, Toyman, and Weather Wizard, joined a group of villains. When fighting the Justice League, John Jones defeated Metallo. He later joined the Legion of Doom after Grodd founded the organization. Alongside possessing super strength, Metallo was also insanely durable, since his powers were similar to that of Superman. With his kryptonite heart that powered him, he was also technically immortal, because it worked as a ridiculously powerful battery for his android suit. He could also concentrate kryptonite radiation and blast on his chest, and project them to attack. This ability was extended to his eyes after Intergang improved his abilities. Jax-Ur. Jax-Ur climbed up the ranks from being the Kryptonian military supreme commander to its high general, so of course, he is not one to be messed with. In the comics, he was a mad scientist who conducted reckless and dangerous experiments, which landed him a spot in prison, but his character in the DC animated universe is molded around General Zod. As a warrior, his skills are simply impeccable. He ruled the council for several years, and had the people's trust. But eventually, he went on to become power-hungry. And, similar to all power-hungry people, he detested weakness. He seized control of Krypton, as he thought the Council was too weak.
The Council has grown weak. Krypton needs a strong leader to reclaim its former greatness.
He attempted a coup d'etat, but was stopped by Jor-El. In the end, Jax-Ur was imprisoned in the Phantom Zone for eternity, as he was found guilty in trial. But of course, he did not stay in prison for eternity. His second-in-command, Mala, was super faithful to him, and had a shorter sentence. So, she helped Jax-Ur get his release from the Phantom Zone. The both of them went on to develop powers that made them stronger than Superman. Not individually, but as a unit. They fought Superman and succeeded in overpowering him, and subsequently sent him to the Phantom Zone. Then, they proclaimed themselves to be the rulers of Earth, as their main motto was seeking power. All did not remain to be sunshine and rainbows for this villainous duo, because they were sent back to the Phantom Zone following Superman's retrieval. Fortunately for them, they escaped following a rift in the zone that released them into space. They seized another planet and attempted to redesign it in the image of Krypton. Superman was initially reluctant to do anything about it because the people were happy under Jax-Ur's rule. But having met the underground resistance, who told him that they planned to invade Earth, Superman intervened. In the end, the duo got into battle with the Kryptonian fleet and got sucked into a black hole. They were never seen again. Jax-Ur was a Kryptonian, so he had the same powers as Superman, where exposure to Earth's yellow sun gifted him with super strength, invulnerability, super speed, enhanced sight, enhanced hearing, X-ray vision, heat vision, and last but not least, flight. This, alongside with his technical skill as a warrior, brilliance as a strategist and tactician, made him a formidable foe. Granny Goodness. Hailing from Apocalypse, Granny Goodness is the first female villain to make it to this list. Unless you're counting Mala. She was the commander of the Female Furies. Don't be fooled by her kind old lady demeanor though. She is as ruthless as they come. In fact, Granny Goodness was cruel, tormented her enemies, and was extremely loyal to Darkseid himself. Granny Goodness was a lowlife at first. She was recruited to Darkseid's hounds, being one of his elite shock troopers. Granny went on to have a good reputation. Goodness had a war dog named Mercy. Oh, the irony. Who was one of the most skilled hounds. During a final test, Granny had to follow the command of taking Mercy's life, but she killed the instructor instead. While explaining the situation to Darkseid, she said that she did not do this out of sentiment for the dog, but because Mercy was too skilled and loyal for Darkseid to lose. Even though Mercy was loyal to Granny first, it was loyal to him foremost. Darkseid wanted to test this loyalty, so he ordered Mercy to kill Granny. The two of them fought one another, and in the end, Granny ruthlessly killed Mercy and emerged the victor. Mercy's loyalty to Darkseid impressed him, and he went on to give Granny the position to head Armageddon's orphanages. She indoctrinated soldiers from their childhood, training them in combat and their loyalty to Darkseid. She trained her female Furies like Mercy, in the sense that they had to be loyal to Granny first, but Darkseid foremost. Following the discovery of Kara, or Argo by Superman himself, Granny had to create an asteroid magnet. This magnet would help draw a comet towards Earth. The adolescents recruited by Intergang were responsible for getting Granny the necessary equipment to do so, but her parade was rained on when Supergirl found her hideout. To deal with this situation, Granny summoned her Furies. Superman joined the party, but was subdued by the Furies. However, Granny had completed creating her magnet, so she took Superman to Apokolips. Her Furies accompanied her, of course, and together they gifted Superman to Darkseid. He was later rescued by Supergirl, and together they successfully removed the comet out of Earth's atmosphere. Because Granny failed her mission, Darkseid was pissed off. He made the Furies torture Granny. Rough. Following the death of Darkseid and Brainiac's asteroid, Granny's position was elevated. She went on to become one of the strongest and most revered warlords on Apokolips, thanks to the help of the female Furies. However, Vermin Wunderbar opposed her position. Granny and Wunderbar were supposed to battle one last time, but before they could begin their final battle, a Darkseid, resurrected by Lex Luthor, intervened. He appeared before both the armies, and Granny, being one of his most loyal followers, renounced her position as a warlord, and once again pledged her loyalty to Darkseid. Kalibak. This is one villain suffering from severe daddy issues, thanks to Darkseid's bad parenting. He consistently sought his approval, but much to Darkseid's disappointment, Kalibak did not hit the mark as the ideal child. His slow nature was a disappointment for his father. When Apokolips broke out into civil war, Kalibak was imprisoned on Earth. He was Darkseid's first son, and had a pretty rough childhood. One that was full of abuse and neglect by his overly ambitious, power-hungry dad. He had a half-brother, Orion, and a foster brother, Mr. Miracle. He just wanted Darkseid's approval. He wanted to take Superman down, because Darkseid had turned his sights towards Earth and Superman. Kalibak thought it would be a great opportunity for him to prove himself. But he was denied.
Sire, let me destroy Superman for you. No, Kalibak.
Kalibak's mother was Suli, Darkseid's wife, who was killed by Darkseid because Darkseid's mother had ordered for it. Talk about a family feud. Unlike the Kalibak from the DC animated universe, he was a lot more formidable in the comics. And often acted as the second-in-command for Darkseid, trumping the likes of Granny Goodness. However, due to Darkseid's preference to Orion, he had a pretty bitter relationship with his half-brother. After Darkseid's death, Kalibak traveled to Earth and joined a group to kill Superman. When the battle began, he took down Wonder Woman with ease, but Batman successfully stalled him long enough until Superman showed up. However, Kalibak did end up accomplishing his mission to some extent, because Superman was ultimately warped to the future, so he was just presumed to be dead. Being the son of Darkseid, Kalibak had superhuman strength and durability. He was strong enough to match top-tier fighters such as Wonder Woman, but Superman had defeated him several times. In fact, he was once defeated by Lobo.
I can't hear you.
However, his power levels have been inconsistent in the DC animated universe, in the sense that during his first fight with Superman, Kalibak sustained a prolonged battle with him, but in every other fight, he lost quite easily. However, this could be due to the fact that the Man of Steel held back during their first fight. Even though Superman was able to take him out with just a punch, Kalibak could survive Missile Blast or dozens of cars on top of him. What he could not withstand was Darkseid's Omega effect. His fighting skills were limited to brute strength, because even Batman outdid him in a fight. And Batman has no superpowers. Except being a multi-billionaire is probably better than having superpowers.
Who are you? What do you want?
Stay out of this, mortal.
Karkull. Karkull was a magical creature, a demon, who was powerful enough to hurt someone as strong as Superman himself. He was the 7th level Lord of the Inner Pit, and used to be a rogue of Dr. Fate. Karkull escaped the Inner Pit, but how he achieved this fate is unknown. However, Dr. Fate foiled his first escape and trapped him in the artifact of Lorta, which is basically a tablet that compresses whoever it captures. He was freed after almost a century, thanks to a thief who did so accidentally after coming across the artifact of Lorta and reading its inscription aloud. Once he was free, he crushed the artifact and rampaged across Metropolis. This caught Superman's attention, and the two engaged in a brief battle. Once he was safe from his opposition, he cast a powerful spell of protection around the Daily Planet, transforming the building into a realm of his own. After completing the spell, Karkull opened up a portal, which helped him summon his demons. He went on to use the demons to possess and transform the people of Earth into demon slaves. But of course, this plan was thwarted by Superman, because he arrived before Karkull had extended his magic outside the building. But Superman nearly fell in this battle, and was unable to defeat Karkull by himself. After Dr. Fate arrived to stop him once more, Karkull discovered that the artifact of Lorta had been reconstructed. He was horrified and desperate to not be captured again, so he attacked Fate, causing the tablet to drop down the portal. However, Superman retrieved it, and Fate was able to finish his containment spell. Once again, Karkull was compressed into the tablet, and so were his demons. The Daily Planet got rid of his spell, and he is still presumed to be trapped in the artifact. He was a demon under Lords of Chaos protection. Karkull possessed a wide range of magical abilities, with which he could fire bolts of green magic. These bolts were strong enough to harm Superman, as the Man of Steel was weaker against magic. He could also demolish police units and control the intensity of his magic blast. The spell he cast around the Daily Planet was one of his strongest feats of magic usage, as he transformed it into his own realm and opened a portal to summon demons. Magic aside, Karkull also possessed super strength that almost rivaled Superman. During their battle, Karkull scratched Superman and made him bleed. He was also incredibly resilient.
Me, citizen.
Bizarro. Bizarro was a tragic figure, who was a deficient clone of Superman. To be honest, he was not evil per se, but rather manipulated and misguided. Lex Luthor had manufactured an army of Supermen, and Bizarro was its prototype. The clone looked and acted exactly like Superman at first. However, it was not aware of Clark Kent, Superman's alter ego, as he had rescued him from falling off a cliff. However, as the cloning process was unstable, the clone's form and mind mutated, turning him into a messed up version of Superman. And that's how the name Bizarro was born.
What am me?
Bizarro, that's what you am.
Because he was bizarre. He also went on to imitate Superman's heroic actions, but the results were more than disastrous. Despite the similarities with Superman, his DNA was way different than that of Superman or any Kryptonian in general. So, the green kryptonite had no effect on him. After activating Brainiac's orb, Bizarro asked it about his origins. Basically, things like who he was and where he was from. The orb thought he was Superman, so it told Bizarro that he was Kal-El from the planet Krypton. Naturally, Bizarro believed it and wanted to remake Krypton and Metropolis, hoping to be home again. The way he did it was bizarre, to say the least. He went around throwing scrap metal to replicate Kryptonian architecture. Superman took Bizarro to a different planet, which supported non-sentient life. He told Bizarro that he could defend that world, like Superman protects Earth. Despite Bizarro having a mutated, unintelligent brain, he understood that Superman was bluffing him, because the planet was empty.
It am empty. How can me be protector when no one here to protect?
But on getting Krypto as a pet, Bizarro was overjoyed. This also shows us how Bizarro isn't inherently evil. Later, Bizarro returned to Earth and allied with Giganta to help break Grodd out of imprisonment. Sometime in the future, he went on to become a member of the Legion of Doom, where Grodd and Luthor experimented with his mind. Being a clone of Superman, Bizarro had similar powers and abilities, such as superhuman strength, speed, resistance, and senses. Plus, he had Superman's invulnerability, flight, heat vision, and X-ray vision. Except, the majority of those powers worked in reverse. He was so fast that he could near a speed of Mach 3, and his durability helped him survive massive blasts and explosions. A very interesting detail in the DC animated universe was Bizarro's theme song. It was basically a warped version of Superman's theme, and the wrong notes were intentional. This was symbolic of his warped Superman form.
Enjoy finishing this myself.
Luminus. Before becoming Luminus, he was Edward Leitner. He used to be an inventor at LexCorp. His specialization was light-based technology, such as lasers. He was also a top-flight scientist. When LexCorp was being investigated, Leitner saved himself by becoming a whistleblower. This helped him fall in the good graces of none other than Lois Lane, aka Superman's girlfriend. But things did not go smoothly for this one-sided lover, and Superman's involvement in this case was basically his villain origin story into becoming Luminus. When Lois Lane investigated the corruption at LexCorp, Leitner fell for her, and spoke about this with Lex Luthor, with the hope that Lane would notice him. He became a whistleblower to get Lois, which is why she was able to write an award-winning expose on Lex Luthor's company. But this obviously resulted in Leitner being fired. Lois always remained oblivious to Leitner being in love with her, but her involvement did result in him losing his career, so he grew to resent her and became revengeful.
I risked it all. My job, my reputation, my research. I knew what would happen if Lex found out.
You blew the...
He plotted to kill her, and in one instance, had trapped Lois in a shrinking cage with laser beams. Fortunately, Superman arrives at the nick of time to save her and overpower Leitner. He was imprisoned in Stryker's prison. Luthor provided Leitner with the equipment to continue with his research for LexCorp. With that equipment, he also prepared his revenge plan to take down Superman. Leitner was extremely intelligent and brilliant. His skill with electronics, technology in general, and lasers was impeccable. He had some pretty amazing inventions under his belt, such as a harness that emitted red sun radiation, which powered him enough to land strong blows on Superman. He could also turn himself and objects invisible. As a scientist who excelled in light-based technology, Leitner came to be known as Luminus. He was equipped with a laser pistol, and his battlesuit allowed him to levitate. He could also project compelling illusions of people and other objects. He could even project his own image. Once, he had created an entire building with hard light illusions, which could hurt Superman. His invulnerability would have prevented him from sustaining any injuries, but Luminus had filtered the sunlight in a way that Superman received only the radiation from the red sun. This is a solid testament to his skills as a scientist, as well as his superior intelligence. Prometheon. This massively overpowered giant creature was not from Earth. but was released here instead. It had the ability to absorb all the heat it could possibly find. He was an artificial creature. An unnamed alien race had created him, not for any antagonistic purpose, but for heavy labor. It could absorb the heat from the twin suns of that planet to fuel itself. The alien race had also granted Prometheon with intelligence. Even though it was minimal, it could make its own decisions to some extent. With a better understanding, it began to seek greater sustenance. So, it went on a rampage and destroyed everything around it for fire to fuel it more and more. The higher heat absorption also made it stronger. The alien race subdued Prometheon by strapping it to an asteroid and sending it to space. They also attached a warning transmitted to it so that other creatures in the galaxy did not release him. The asteroid reached Earth at some point. It was on a collision course with Metropolis. The asteroid had to be destroyed to save the people of the city. General Hardcastle was assigned to execute this job. After seeing that Prometheon was strapped to the asteroid, Hardcastle still stayed on his path and detonated the charges after the sun helped Prometheon awaken from its coma. It fell to Earth, but remained unharmed because it had just absorbed all the heat that was released following the detonation, as well as the heat from the Earth's atmosphere. Prometheon also grew stronger in the process. Since it was impossible to defeat it with explosions, considering Prometheon was absorbing heat from several places, and even Superman was unable to take it down. Star Labs handled the situation by dropping chemicals in a lake where Prometheon was. Those chemicals reacted to freeze it in the lake. The Prometheon was strong enough to move mountains, as well as cause damage to Superman. It could also hold a nuclear submarine, which ran at full throttle. It grew stronger with heat and weaker with cold. It was also invulnerable to some extent, mainly due to its ability to absorb heat. Superman caused it to take some damage and be hurt, but still, it did not make too much of a difference. It could cool down nuclear reactors, turn molten steel into solid, and absorb fire due to its heat absorption abilities. It is interesting to note how a creature with powers connected to heat and fire is called Prometheon. This is a clear connection to Prometheus from Greek mythology, who was the titan that introduced fire to the humans. He was also bound to a rock by Zeus for transgressing him. Similarly, Prometheon was bound to a rock as well. In its case, an asteroid. Brainiac. Brainiac is not a person or a creature, but rather a Kryptonian planet-wide supercomputer. It sought knowledge and traveled the galaxy in pursuit of it. It also destroyed the sources of that knowledge, to be the only one in possession of it, increasing its value. He attempted to do this in the entire universe, and believed that it was its function. This attracted Superman's attention, and Brainiac became his nemesis. When Jor-El found out about Krypton nearing its end, Brainiac had dismissed his claims in front of the Council and instead called it a temporary orbital shift. Jor-El discovered Brainiac's lie after breaking into its central unit. There, he learned that it intended to download itself into a satellite in secret and escape Krypton's destruction.
You're downloading. You're transmitting your memory to a satellite. Saving.
If it spent time trying to prepare for an evacuation plan for the Kryptonians, it also wished to protect all the planet's records instead of its people. Brainiac had successfully uploaded its core program and data to an artificial satellite before Krypton's explosion. Even though Jor-El made attempts to resist Brainiac's plans, Brainiac traveled the universe and uploaded the knowledge of every inhabited planet it touched down upon, after subsequently destroying it, to be the sole possessor of its knowledge. After Brainiac came to Earth and pretended to ally with LexCorp, it gained Superman's attention, who figured out Brainiac's true purpose of uploading Earth's knowledge to its program and destroying the planet. Superman ended up destroying the ship with Luthor's help, but Brainiac had already uploaded a copy of its programming into the computers of LexCorp. Following an altercation involving Batman, Brainiac escaped to space and found his way into Apocalypse, with Darkseid proposing a bargain for capturing Superman to please Brainiac in exchange for not destroying Apocalypse. The both of them became allies. Later, Darkseid hacked into its controls and took over the program, Brainiac had to obey Darkseid after that, and they attacked the Justice League, but Batman defeated them by disrupting the program. Brainiac had also possessed Lex Luthor via nanotechnology in one instance. After the year 2979, it also passed down its code biologically, creating the Brainiac 5, which opposed the Legion of Superheroes. Since it is an artificial intelligence program, Brainiac has no superpowers as such. Its abilities are focused on bodies and programs it can develop and control, and the knowledge it could absorb. It could also transfer its programming to another computer, so despite being destroyed, it could resurrect. This is basically what happened when it uploaded its programming into the LexCorp computers. It could also use nanotechnology to transfer its programming into humans. For example, the instance with Lex Luthor. Brainiac could control robotic bodies with superhuman strength and resistance. However, those robots could not rival Superman. But they did have the ability to project metal tendrils and use electricity for offense. Brainiac also used Energy Blast.
2 annoyances with 1 stone.
Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is one of the most popular enemies of Superman, if not the most popular. He was a super powerful businessman, and even though he wasn't one with superpowers, he was a criminal mastermind. To be Superman's arch nemesis without superpowers, you would need to have one of the most brilliant minds ever. And that's exactly where Luthor excelled and delivered. Apart from being intelligent, rich, and successful, Lex Luthor loved to be admired and recognized by lesser beings, i.e. the common people. He had a highly inflated ego and considered himself to be the pinnacle of personal achievement. His overambitiousness was the root of his antagonistic tendencies. He also wanted to be seen as the savior of Metropolis. He lacked conscience, but made up for it with an abundance of genius. He founded LexCorp and turned it into one of the largest corporations in the United States with his ruthless business strategies. He erected several hospitals, schools, and libraries in his name in Metropolis, and donated millions to charity. But that was all a facade. In reality, he was devious, cold, and basically evil. Lex Luthor used LexCorp to monopolize over markets in Metropolis, hoarding more and more wealth, and becoming the most powerful man in the city. There's nothing Lex Luthor hated more than the idea of an overpowered alien living amongst humans. So, he schemed to cause the downfall of Superman on quite a regular basis, and eventually became his arch nemesis. He was hell-bent on ruining Superman's reputation in several instances. Luthor would hire psychopathic villains, such as the Joker, to kill Superman. Even though his plans were almost often thwarted by the Man of Steel, Luthor somehow managed to cover his devious trail and avoided being prosecuted. He would also carry a small piece of kryptonite with him as a precaution against Superman, but the radiation caused him to develop kryptonite poisoning. Luthor was exposed as a criminal to the public in the DC animated universe, after a merged Luthor and Brainiac failed to destroy the Justice League and Superman. His insanely vast technological know-how and brilliance was rivaled only by the likes of Bruce Wayne and Mr. Terrific. However, he lacked skills in combat. He developed several customized devices which could neutralize his enemies as well as his allies. This also helped him get into the good books of numerous powerful villains from the Legion of Doom, including its founder Grodd. Lex Luthor has also rivaled Superman in other areas of life, such as romance. Before dating Clark Kent, Lois Lane dated Luthor, but she eventually broke up with him because she severely disliked his personality. And rightfully so. Darkseid. Lex Luthor is not the only uber-popular nemesis of Superman. His popularity is rivaled by none other than the ruler of Apocalypse, Darkseid himself. Not just Superman, but Darkseid was one of the greatest enemies of the Justice League, as a would-be conqueror of the entire universe. He has conquered innumerable planets in the universe, and got a kick out of feeding on the pain of others. His origins are not very well known, because it has been lost over time. But Darkseid has always been the Iron Fist ruling over Apokolips and its inhabitants. Darkseid was another highly ambitious antagonist who wished to control the entire universe. He sought the power of the anti-life equation to fulfill his destiny. This power was theoretically supposed to let him control all life in the universe. Apart from Superman, Darkseid had another rival, Highfather, who was the leader of Apokolips's sister planet, New Genesis. He wanted to acquire his desired power without the intervention of Highfather. After noticing Earth, Darkseid took an interest in its vast resources and weak human population.
When the time comes, you and this primitive planet will swear allegiance to Darkseid.
He also took an interest in Superman, an overpowered being living amongst the vulnerable and unworthy masses. Darkseid aided Intergang and supplied them with powerful weapons from Apokolips to take Superman down. He orchestrated several attacks against the Man of Steel, but he had given him his word that he would avoid invading Earth. Despite having an ancient peace treaty with New Genesis, Darkseid violated it after he invaded a New Genesis protected sector while seeking the anti-life equation. He allied with Superman during a battle in Apokolips, as they both intended to defeat Brainiac. In the end, he asked the League to kill him, and so they did. But that does not mean he remained dead. He had initially promised Brainiac that he would help it capture Superman. So, Darkseid boom-tubed inside the headquarters of Brainiac and vanquished the Justice League. He also used Brainiac's program to get the anti-life equation. However, his efforts were thwarted by Orion, Wonder Woman, and Batman. Darkseid won against Orion, but was later intercepted by Superman, who ended up causing Darkseid's death. He was resurrected back to life when Lex Luthor attempted to bring back Brainiac. Since Darkseid had overridden Brainiac's program, he came back to life. Darkseid is possibly one of the most powerful beings in the universe, to the point that he is an enormous threat, even to Superman. His strength is monstrous, and resilience shocking, making him immune to almost any physical injury. His speed and stamina are also on par with that of Superman. However, instead of indulging in hand-to-hand combat, Darkseid prefers to use the Omega Beam. It is a deadly red beam of light, which Darkseid projects from his eyes to take his target down. It is intensely hot, plus it has the power to disintegrate its opponent. It can also teleport several beings, and is often used by Darkseid to dispatch his disgraced servants to the slave mines in Apokolips. Apart from being ridiculously overpowered, Darkseid's mind in itself was a force to be reckoned with. He was cunning, but also patient. Since he was able to comprehend the anti-life equation, Darkseid was known to possess the 12th level intellect. He carried a kryptonite knife and agony matrix with him in his arsenal of weapons when he invaded Earth for the second time. Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf was part of Apokolips's military and acted as their military general. His master was Darkseid. Initially, he served as a commander for Darkseid's parademons. He spearheaded the invasion force to Earth during Apokolips's first invasion. He was also given one important task in particular: capturing Superman. With the help of Dan Turpin, who headed the Metropolis Special Crimes, Superman was able to turn the tide of the battle against Apokolips. Steppenwolf also led an invasion to another planet and commanded the army of it as part of Darkseid's search for the anti-life equation. However, an armada from New Genesis ambushed his forces, and Steppenwolf was forced to retreat, following the fleet of New Genesis giving chase. The only surviving warship was destroyed, and only Steppenwolf's flagship remained. Escape was made near impossible, as New Genesis's fleet crippled Steppenwolf's ship. To save themselves, he informed Darkseid about their dire situation. The main issue here was that Apokolips and New Genesis had a peace treaty, and this invasion for the anti-life equation violated this. Towards the end of this exchange, Steppenwolf was killed, and his flagship was sent back to Apokolips by Orion via boom tube. Similar to Superman, Steppenwolf's arsenal of abilities consists of super strength, super speed, high resistance, durability, and agility. He also wielded an electro axe and a cable snare. He also rode a hover bike into battle, which added some style. Once, Darkseid had persuaded Steppenwolf to hunt the people of New Genesis for sport. Darkseid wanted to take power and used this chaos as an opportunity to do so. Steppenwolf ended up taking the life of Isaiah, the Inheritor's wife. Isaiah later went on to become the High Father. This act was what caused the bloody war between Apocalypse and New Genesis to begin, and Isaiah killed Steppenwolf to avenge the death of his wife. However, Darkseid later used apocalyptic technology to resurrect Steppenwolf and make him the commander of his military once again.
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.
Carry that agony with you to oblivion, Superman.